All right, it's 4 o'clock on February 20th. We call this our meeting in Metropolitan. You need it. So well, I saw Todd walk in. Call this order of the Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization order. Freudian slip. We do have a full agenda today. We have a quorum, so with the full agenda, the quicker we move through, the quicker we'll be able to get you out of here today. So the first item is our vote on the approval of the agenda. Approval. Second. Moved by Urbandale, seconded by Polk City. Discussion of the agenda. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. The agenda is approved. Up next, we have a vote on the approval of the January meeting minutes. Move approval. Second. Moved by Urbandale, seconded by Altoona. Any discussion on the meeting minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Thank you. Up next is the consent and vote. And as a reminder, if you'd like to discuss any of these items, we can pull those and discuss, but would entertain a motion to approve. Move. Second. Moved by Altoona, seconded by Urbandale. Any discussion on the consent? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Consent is approved. Thank you. Moving on, public comment. Do we have anybody signed up or would like to speak on public comment? Seeing nobody. Moving on to report and vote, strategic planning framework. And we are...
I'll turn it over to Cass to walk us through the strategic planning framework. This is something new that we're doing that builds off of the governance, the human capital plan that we did last calendar year. And it comes ahead of the work program that we'll also be developing and kind of the bridge between the two.
I'm going to jump in and give everybody a good reminder of the work process we've been through, and then we are going to jump into reviewing the strategic framework, the draft of the strategic framework. So two primary objectives of the work that we have started here. Of course, tonight we're doing the strategic framework, but then we also will do about 10 minutes on vision, mission, and guiding principles. That was the second half of the scope of work. So okay. Work we've completed to date, specifically on developing the strategic framework. We did have a strategic planning committee that we worked with that included members of both the policy committee and the TTC. And our timeline, we began our initial planning work, leadership team and myself started December 30th through January 22nd doing initial planning work. We met with the strategic planning committee in mid-January. And then if you recall, and officially launched strategic planning with the policy committee. We told you we were going to move very quickly. So over the last few weeks, we asked you to do some homework for us. And now we're bringing back that compiled homework and the completed draft of the SWOT or the completed draft of the framework for you to see today. Just a reminder, there was some work in that SWOT analysis that is also informing the vision, mission, and guiding principles work. So the effort that you've put in already is dual pronged. So a couple of quick looks. The reason the SWOT analysis was really important for helping us inform the framework, we leveraged everything we did from the governance insights work, everything we did from human capital planning, but we wanted to take a really intentional look and give everyone the opportunity to weigh in on the actual operation and work of the MPO. So what strengths and weaknesses do we need to think about? Are there opportunities and threats impacting the future of our work? And then of course, we asked the questions around outcomes and aspirations. So to give you a quick look, the complete analysis was in your packet. I'm not going to walk through the complete analysis tonight. I was thinking folks would go, oh, okay. But here's the snapshot. We received 13 worksheets back from policy committee members. We received 1 TTC response and 5 staff members. But from that, what was so rich is we received 279 unique comments. So looking at the percentages, we had 109 comments that were focused on strengths and weaknesses. And again, remembering strengths and weaknesses are things that impact us internally. So something we have some amount of control over. 91 comments or 33% were around opportunities and threats. Those are external influences, things that will impact our work, but we have very little control over. And then 79 comments, 28% were aspirational and results oriented. So visionary. The thing to keep in mind as you look at this trending, this is very typical. So strengths and weaknesses are normally high on the percentage list because we always talk about strengths. So the strengths numbers are always the biggest category when you do a SWOT. So you have to process that a little bit. Okay. Thanks, Gunnar. So in digesting all of the information, what you see in the SWOT analysis, I took all of your comments, I copied them into the analysis word for word. I did not edit your comments in any way. The only thing I did do is if you gave me a truncated comment, I did break it up so I could put things in the appropriate place. I organized the themes and then grouped them together by that category. There were truly 12 unique themes recognized throughout the entire course of the SWOT. So you can see the themes that are noted here. The other thing, as you analyze the comments and analyze the order of the themes here in priority, it isn't always the one theme that gets the most comment is the highest priority. You really have to assess where people are noting opportunities and weaknesses and potentially threats so that you are looking for your areas of opportunity for innovation. So you can have, just to give you two really good examples as you're analyzing the comments, and I'm going to be a little bit sarcastic as I say this, just for good measure, but in your strengths, you can have that you have the biggest bank account and that comment could be repeated 87 times, but that doesn't impact really how you want to think entirely about where your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats may be, right? So we have to think differently. It's good to recognize that as a strength. It's good to think about that, but it may not entirely drive how you want to think about weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you may not want to put the fact that you have the biggest bank account at the top of your unique theme list, okay? But we do also recognize there were a lot of comments right now around access to funding and managing policy because of the political climate, the uncertainty. So there were a lot of notes about that in threats. So it is in the top of the list, but there were some other things that had more opportunities and weaknesses that put the package together a little different. So if you're counting comments, I don't want you to say, well, Cass, this had the most comments. Why is it not the top priority? Okay. All right, we'll keep moving. So before you look at the framework or before you really dig into the framework, I just wanted to remind you what we are accomplishing in this framework. It's very different than a strategic plan. What this framework is it is a hybrid of thinking about things with strategic vision, creating consensus and alignment for you as policy committee members. And then it's also blending tactical approaches as well. So we wanted the policy committee to have the opportunity to make sure as you're moving over the next 2 years that you have good consensus on these are the things that we want to focus on and the work and the objectives underneath those priorities, underneath those strategic visions that will help us get there. We didn't want to undertake a full-blown strategic planning process in this moment because of all of the work we've just come out of with governance and human capital plan. You have put a lot of time and energy into that. So thinking about doing a whole nother plan, everybody was kind of like, oh, more planning. So we're doing this framework to get us through the next 2 years. Initially, our thought was maybe 12 to 18 months, but as we really worked through the framework, it feels like it's more robust and will serve strongly for the next 2 years. So what we need from you today is as we walk through the framework, we want your feedback, modifications, input. What did we miss? What do you love about it? But ultimately, what we're hoping that we can hear from you today is what we need to change to gain your approval so that we can move forward with implementation. All right, we're moving. So here is the framework. just a picture of the cover page here. And then I know everybody has this or has the opportunity to have this in front of you. Moving into the core strategic vision. Okay. If this is too small to see.
Share. Does anybody have any share? Yeah, you can share it. Work out. You can share. I can see.
Okay. For online, there is a link that you can click on directly to access the framework as well. So what you can see across the top are the strategic visions. There were clearly from the work, from the human capital plan, from governance insights, and then also the SWOT, 4 areas that stood out to the planning team that just made sense for us to continue to focus on. Strengthening MPO governance and operations, and then you can see how that's defined underneath. Regional planning and federal excellence, enhancing partnerships and services, and then purpose-driven innovation. So to say this in the simplest terms, as you look at each of these columns, strengthening MPO governance and operations is purely the function of the MPO as an organization itself. Regional planning and federal excellence is the transportation planning and kind of the bread and butter of MPO. Enhanced partnerships and services is everything that isn't transportation planning. So all of the services, the partnership work that the MPO does. And then purpose-driven innovation is that space to think creatively. You don't want to read each of the definitions to everyone there, but the definitions are really important. Before I move into the heart and soul of the framework, how do you feel about the strategic vision items?
Fine with them. You're looking for comments.
Yes, feedback, thank you.
Seemed like that's what you're waiting for. They align with the comments in here.
What's that?
They align with the comment.
And also with the governance insights report and all right, before I move on, I'm going to say this, feeling like we have consensus to move on.
Yes.
Okay, so as we move into the framework, obviously the color coding is intentional and the arrows following down. So as you read the framework, the outcomes that are expected over the next 2 years to strengthen MPO governance and operations. We want to see a financial and operations evaluation, organizational development, and enhanced governance. And how we are going to do that are the tactics listed below. So those objectives listed below are the items that we're planning over the next 2 years to work on in order to achieve a financial and operations evaluation, the items and tactics we plan to work on to achieve organizational development, and so on and so forth. To enhance governance, we'll continue to work on it. We'll complete that membership evaluation, identify 28E and bylaw amendments, and expand committee and member knowledge base, strength and orientation. So a blend of both. What are we trying to achieve and how are we going to do it? What's great about this framework is over the next 2 years, as work gets accomplished, and kind of come up here and point to this. As work gets accomplished here, you can take these things off and put new things here, but your outcome doesn't change. So for the next 2 years, this is where you know you want to put your energy. So you have alignment and consensus as a policy committee that those items will support our strategic vision. So then moving over to federal excellence, same concept, streamlining processes, regional priorities alignment, maintaining a future focus, partnerships and services, simplifying access, advocacy and policy monitoring is something, again, in this current climate, we know is really important. And then collaboration, education, resource sharing. And under innovation, wildly important projects, which is just kind of a fun, I can have Dylan talk a little bit about that. Defining the potential of the MPO and then becoming the model for MPO best practices. Dylan, are there some of the tactics that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, I can talk through some of these, and I think really the intent too is that these will help, like I said earlier, filter down into our annual work program. So this isn't everything that we'll be doing. These are just some of the key things that we'll highlight. So for example, with the enhanced governance and organizational development, you see some things that came out of the human capital plan and the governance plan of just ensuring that we have a good bench of both policy members, elected, the board members that we have, as well as staff members, but also just ensuring that the way we go about governance in terms of having committees where they make sense to ensure that there's engagement. Those are things we've talked about before. Some of the newer things, like Cass mentioned, as we get into the advocacy and policy monitoring, what can we be doing that is providing more of a service to all of you? It's not necessarily a federal requirement, so it doesn't belong in that pink column, but it's still something that is a value add that while we're all here and something we can provide to you for being a member of the MPO, what do those things look like? And that's one that stood out to us. Cass alluded to the wildly important projects. This is something that we've kind of kicked around internally in WIPs, wildly important projects, because we like acronyms. These are kind of the big, hairy things that we don't do a lot of them, but we do a couple. They might take us a couple of years to get through, but they really drive the region forward. So as it shows on there, I guess it's not on there, but like things like water trails, things like the transit facility, where we got big federal grants and we actually went out and built something. Not to say we want to do that all the time, but doing the comprehensive safety action plan, that's an example of it. So I want to get people thinking about what are those kind of things? What are the opportunities we have to be doing collectively as a region? What can we be doing together that really makes a difference in the region?
The other thing to clarify as you look at this framework is this does not, and Dylan, you'll have to help me with this does not replace your vetting document. So I don't want anybody to interpret this to mean that we are opening the floodgates and by approving this framework, we are approving any kind of wildly important project. Anything that you would consider will still go through your normal vetting project and that great matrix that you developed. This is just saying we're going to consider those things and we're stating that as a priority.
For those of you that aren't familiar with what Cass is talking about, we do have a decision tree or decision matrix that as something comes in that doesn't necessarily fall right within the wheelhouse of what we traditionally do, we can ask ourselves a series of questions of, is this transportation related? If not, does it do X, Y, Z? Or even if it is transportation related, does it affect everybody? Does it affect only one? That kind of dictates how we go about our role in that project, if we do anything at all. So this will very much fit within that framework rather than replace it.
So I'm going to cover one more thing and then we'll come back to this slide.
I had one quick question. So Dylan, does this framework impact your thinking and your staffing and how you support the framework going forward? Did it add anything?
No, it just reinforces the work we've already done in the human capital plan. Yeah, I guess you'll see the implementation of the human capital plan in this.
Great question. So I'm going to fast forward and then I'll come back. What you'll see on the third page, and we just thought that this was important context and especially important for new members coming in or for the public understanding the framework as well. It would be really easy to say when you're looking at a tactical plan that has strategy in it at the same time, that our goal is, and you can measure success when you see we've completed all of these things. So we could say that is how we will measure our success, is we will complete all of this work. But we actually wanted to go one step further and put other success measures on here that we can keep track of running alongside completion of the work in the strategic framework. So we have both the quantitative metric of actually finishing the work and then the qualitative metric that will support demonstration of the effectiveness of the framework. And then the other thing we wanted to distinguish in here, so you can kind of keep how these things are separated, and Dylan noted this earlier, is the framework does not replace the day-to-day operations. So we just tried to separate out here so you could see what the day-to-day operations also include in addition to the strategic framework. So just making that distinction so nobody thinks that we're replacing anything or undoing anything, or all of the day-to-day operations will continue. And that's what, just at a high level, those things include. So I'll flip back to the, so share with me your thoughts on the bulk of the framework. That's a big question. Do you like what you see? What stands out to you? What are you most excited about?
I think there's a focus on strengths.
What's that?
Right? It just accentuates the strengths of the MPO. Being a regional entity, bringing folks together, focus on transportation, but also looking toward innovation towards those big hairy projects, or however Dylan defined it.
Wild.
Wildly important, right?
Yeah, that's
Not
always
wildly complicated.
success measures. So now the staff knows these are the measures we're going to be reviewing on to say if we hit the goal or not hit a goal. And
Yeah, and I think that's something that Cass hasn't mentioned yet, but we do have kind of a back end tracking system for this stuff. We need to get it finalized, but then we will have something that we can follow internally and make sure we're doing it, but we can also show that to you every once in a while to show, yeah, we are on pace to hit these things. We are achieving our goals or not.
I think, the turmoil that we went through with committee staff, everyone coming in out the other end and kind of starting to formulate some ideas about this, having the meetings. I think this gives us everything that we were wanting, what we were trying to accomplish. Now we can work from it, staff can work from it. I think it hits everything that we were really discussing in all of those meetings. So it feels very comfortable to me because it feels like exactly what we were trying to accomplish.
Sounds like a motion, Heather?
Yeah, absolutely. Move to approve.
Okay.
By Altoona, second by Dart.
Bad, I didn't catch that. Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, approved. On.
So I promised you in doing the vision, mission, and guiding principles review, we would allocate about 10 minutes to this, but I need just a little bit more input. So let me come back and say, did we make developing the strategic framework easy? Okay. So we'd like to do the same thing as we review the vision, mission, and guiding principles, but I need a little bit of input to help support what we learned from the SWOT analysis. So I need a little bit of time and attention. If you help me in the next 10 minutes, what our goal is that I can take your input from today, or potentially if you want to spend a little bit more time after today and send some follow-up, we can take all of that feedback. And then in April is what we're targeting, because normally you don't have a session in March. We will bring back an updated draft of vision and mission to you. So 10 minutes is what I'm targeting. So a couple of things to level set as we jump into this. Why are we looking at vision, mission, and guiding principles? Just as a reminder, this was an outcome from the Governance Insights report. So there were a couple of just acknowledgements through that discussion of feeling like the vision and mission really shaped and focused just solely on transportation planning and not necessarily the organization. So it felt like there was a little bit of a disconnect of how you bring all of those pieces together. In addition to, it's been a long time since we've looked at this. So now that we know what we know, new leadership, all of these pieces coming together, the timing is just perfect to take a look. A reminder with the SWOT, we asked you questions about outcomes and aspirations and challenged you to think about what will the work look like when we get there? So what is our finish line? What are we working towards? What do we want to change? And then even bigger, what do we care about? Where do we want to make the difference? In the packet, in the big SWOT analysis, you have the whole packet, but I attached an addendum that has just the comments for outcomes and aspirations. That should be in front of you because I love paper, but there is also a link for folks online. I want you to take just a couple of seconds and look at the comments that folks submitted for outcomes and aspirations. It'll inform how we're going to ask some questions.
Blue and the orange comments on it.
This is it.
So MPO policy SWOT analysis, February 2025.
Based on. Yep. All the comments. I think there were 79 of them.
Yeah, okay.
I give you just a couple of seconds to run through those comments. Maybe circle ones that stand out to you. Yes.
So different members.
It's basically the first one, just PTC.
I don't read. Sure.
I'm sharing a few things in the chat for those of you who are online, and we'll talk about that in just 1 second. Okay. Here's where I need your input. Victor and I are not agreeing today.
No, if I click into the chat, or anything, there's.
Oh, it takes
you.
you.
So, check your quick.
Okay. So just a reminder, I don't know if you're anything like I am. Sometimes I forget the difference between a vision statement and a mission statement and guiding principles. So I just wanted to give everybody a good reminder. Vision statement, the easy way to say it, got it up here, you can read it, but ultimately what your vision statement is what the finish line looks like. So when you all are ready to hold up your name tents, you completed all the work that needs to be done. The MPO doesn't need to exist anymore because everything in the region is perfect. That is your vision statement, okay? So vision is long-term thinking. Not tomorrow thinking. I don't know that we're going to have all the work done by tomorrow, but long-term thinking. Okay? Gunnar and I will get in here in a minute. So here's the existing vision statement, and I'm going to direct you to the worksheet now, the little form that I handed out, the front and back form. I've got the same piece on there, the existing vision statement. I have 3 questions for you. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to quick capture your thoughts. This isn't intended to be a brutal exercise. I want you to give me kind of initial reaction. Tell me what you like about the current vision statement. Tell me what's missing from the current vision statement. And tell me 3 words you feel like we should include to help inspire, describe, and shape the vision. So after taking a look at those comments and going through this process, we have the new strategic framework. Does this still fit? If it does, and I'm not saying, not making a judgment on the vision statement here. Tell me what you like, tell me what's missing, and tell me 3 words that in your opinion have to be there. It'll be about 30 seconds to wrap up your vision box. Okay. I'm gonna ask for any feedback. Gonna move to mission. So we're gonna shift gears. Same concept. Your mission statement, though, is thinking in the present day. So vision, thinking long-term, perfect picture. Once we do all of the work, mission statement now is how are we actually going to do it? What do we need to do in order to achieve the mission, or achieve the vision? Thinking in present day. So here's the existing mission statement. My questions are almost the same. What do you like about the current mission statement? What's missing from the mission statement when you think in terms of what do we need to do? What action do we need to take to support our vision statement? And you can base your answers on what you shared for the vision statement. And then what 3 words should be included to capture action, support decision-making, and help achieve the vision? Three minutes again. Thirty-second warning again. 30 seconds to wrap up your thoughts. Okay. Last thing I am going to challenge your brain with tonight. Well, that I'm challenging your brain with. Guiding principles. These are new for the MPO. The MPO hasn't had defined guiding principles before, but is something that, again, came up as an opportunity for the organization. So guiding principles, simply rules or standards that govern how you operate and interact both internally and externally. if you think about your organizations, how many of you have guiding principles or values defined in addition to your mission and vision? It's a pretty important piece of the work, not only from a public facing standpoint, but also from a recruitment and retention point for staff as well. So folks know what you stand for and how you plan to approach the work. So my question this time, because we don't have anything to balance this back against, I would love to have you share 3 to 5 words with simple summaries, not definitions. And I have a couple of examples here that I know are a little bit heavier, but 3 to 5 words that you think we need to explore for guiding principles. My intention is, in giving me a simple summary, this is a really easy way to say it. Don't give me the color blue, Dean, because there's 87 versions of blue, and I don't want to misinterpret what you mean by that. I mean, navy blue, indigo blue, aqua, you know. So if you put something like collaboration, integrity, you know, something like that, just give me a little bit of context behind your word so I know what that means to you. So I don't misinterpret how we build that into a potential guiding principle. 3 minutes and 3 to 5. Thirty seconds to wrap up your thoughts. Give me some super quick feedback. What was one thing that, yes,
Can this is meeting number 2 for me. So can I give some thoughts on this document at all?
yeah,
Just reading it as a total outsider.
yes.
And you don't need to tell me if I'm accurate. When I read this, it seems like this team has not been particularly functional it's been a little bit dysfunctional based on the comments in the past. I have no idea if that's true.
Oh, I think we could probably say there was.
Okay, yeah, well, and like, spot on. Okay, so I'm reading that there's a history there.
Been a while.
Okay.
Been a year. A while back.
Great. I don't know what that history is. So if that's meant to come out, it feels like it's coming out, great. And I mean, there's a lot of statements that would indicate that. It also feels to me like the staff has some ideas on stuff they want to do. They want to be more proactive, but they feel kind of constrained right now. No idea if that's true. I don't know what I'm saying. So that feels to me, and then when I look at the guiding principles, it's like very aspirational given the history. So it's like, well, how can we not do that crap anymore? So we're going to come up with integrity, which is transparency, collaboration, teamwork. Seems like there's haves and have nots in terms of even cities that are sitting here. I don't know if that's true. It just seems that way. And holistic approach, which is like, hey, let's move beyond just like roads. So again, I'm just saying what I saw. I'm not even saying that I saw correctly. I assume you don't want to have a lot of conversation about what I said, and that's not my intent. But like with fresh eyes,
I think it's fair. I think what the members that you picked up on this and going through this process, we're trying to provide staff a clear direction and give them the freedom to innovate within the framework. COVID was challenging, and I think it's fair to say some members felt we got off of our target with outside contracts, which we've now gotten out of. So I think it's fair. I think your assessment's fair, and this is what this almost 2-year endeavor has been working on, is moving in a direction the staff is comfortable making decisions. And
is it also accurate there have been kind of haves and have nots, or there's like closed door conversation?
I think probably the haves and have nots is the dynamics of the different needs between large cities and small cities, which we're never going to be able to really rectify. I mean, we want to be MPO for all. So recognizing that different size populated cities have different needs than larger populated cities. So I think there's kind of that tug back and forth that's through some of our work with other MPOs in the region. We've got some good in the nation, we've come up with some good ideas on how to address that. And we continue to march forward with that. It's just making sure that we're all quickly and without spending, what was it, a year last time on the mission and vision and goal setting, that we're trying to move to not dedicate that much time, but to do something succinctly and let staff continue to be successful and move down the path. And then we'll readjust them when needed.
Yeah.
So, anyone else?
Well, and I think to be fair, the MPO has done great work for a long time, right? Like we went through some struggles for a period of time, but a lot of that was that we were trying to be a lot of things to a lot of people. And I think, what we've had to do is try to refocus. And what this has done is it's going to provide some direction from this board to staff so that they know, how to be successful. And what defines success. And I think this is a really good starting point for that. But, we kind of joke about how dysfunctional it was, and there was some of that. But again, the MPO has done a lot of great work for a long time too. So let's not discount that.
Well, I think too, it's a pretty simple model. We get $30-40 million from the federal government. Less than 20. I always forget numbers. What's the 29? And then you divide it amongst all our communities. Well, Des Moines could spend 20 million in a heartbeat like that now, and projects that are really important. So yeah, there's always going to be that, because there's not enough money. So there's always going to be that give and take. It's just the nature of the beast. Sorry to pick on Des Moines. You're the biggest. I'm not saying you don't need it.
All right, unless there's anything else, Cass, keep.
If I can share one thought as someone who's been a partner kind of on the journey with you for the last year or so. the way that I would say it back to you, and you all correct me as I share this thought. There have been challenges that the MPO has faced, but the way that I see you working together right now is really going through an evolution. And I think there's an appetite to think about things differently. I think there's always going to be pieces of the work that are going to be awkward and uncomfortable, just even as like you're sharing the thought there and everybody's kind of thinking about it. But I think fundamentally, and I'm looking at you all as group to kind of validate this, is it feels like the excitement in the room is different than it was 18 months ago. The appetite for the work is a little bit different, and the engagement of the people around the table. Like I think about who was in the room or the number of people who were in the room when we started this process compared to today. I mean, as a person presenting the strategic framework, I was excited to have a full room. Like there's only a few seats that are empty, and that's awesome. So I think your observation is fair, but I think the trajectory of things are going is different than it was. So still
Making a comment on the present.
yeah, still work to do, but moving in the right direction. But thank you for that. So,
Yes.
yeah, Scott,
I don't want to derail anything,
no,
but there is this moment in time that we're experiencing right now with federal government and state government making some very serious changes to how they address infrastructure at the other levels. I just, are we missing an opportunity to talk through that a little bit more of how that should or maybe should not impact our mission and because it's long term, I don't see that changing for where the direction it's headed.
We're gonna have less projects.
That's what I'm saying.
Have any money.
If we're gonna have less resources, does that not somehow, we need to at least have the flexibility to understand that that may have to shift
And
priorities.
if I could respond to that, I think in the framework, we've addressed that. We've tried to account for that and acknowledge that, understanding that we need to communicate to all of you what we're doing. We might have to be more strategic with how we think about the work we do and the funding and so forth. Whether that needs to be reflected in the mission and vision, I don't know, but I would say that it has been, I think, accounted for in spring.
so here are our next steps. Did you give me enough to work with on your worksheets that I can pick them up and take them with me tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Promise? All right. If you didn't, Gunnar has been kind enough to create a Google form with a link. He will send that out after the meeting. I will pick up your worksheets and take them with me. You don't have to put your name on them. What I need is the input. I'm not concerned about the name or where it's coming from. If you want to submit something additional, fill out the Google form on the link, but you'll only have until March 5th to do that. From there, we'll compile everything and we'll be back to you in April to have a more robust discussion around what we see in the potential updates. Sound fair? And if there's more we need to think about with that strategic discussion, we'll do that then. Yeah.
Up next, we have a report and vote on the election of the MPO officers.
Thank you. We have a nominating committee that was comprised of Dean O'Connor, Joe Gatto, and Amanda Wonke. They recommended continuing with the same officers we have now. Those officers would take effect, whatever the vote is, beginning in March, but it is open. If there are other nominations from the floor, we can take those now. Mayor O'Connor is the only one in the room from that nominating committee, so if you have anything you want to add.
I think it's the normal process is that you vote it in every year, but it's a year term. This is that what it's like? Let's go into the year.
You can have up to 2 one-year terms if you're chair.
Right. So the normal is you take it.
Dean.
It's like MWA. You vote on it every year, but you get 2.
Opportunity to be chair of MWA and MPO.
I just got off MWA's. Nice.
You got time.
I think you look really good up there. I think they're doing a good job. I think the committee got together and said the last year has been smooth sailing and appreciate all the work that they're doing, and I think we should keep them going. Oh, I was on the committee. I was gonna allow one of you to do it.
Move approval.
Yeah, there we go.
By Winter Heights, seconded by Amy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion is approved.
Congratulations, Mark. Kind.
Appreciate the support.
Yeah. And moving on, report and vote multimodal economic impact study contract. Marcus.
I think we got the March.
Oh, I jumped.
I call it this.
Report and vote a special March policy committee meeting. Gunner.
We're requesting a special policy meeting next month to approve the comprehensive safety action plan, which we are still anticipating a NOFO for coming up in March. So this would help us stay in line with getting that approved and then moving forward to grant. So the tentative date that's been proposed by staff is March 27th. It'd be virtual.
Yeah, I think we'd be encouraging virtues.
Second.
I've been moved by Oak City, seconded by Irvindale. Any discussion on special meeting? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Special meeting is approved. All right, moving on. Report vote multimodal economic impact study contract. Marcus.
Okay, so last month we brought before you a request to issue an RFP for this multimodal economic impact study. Again, the purpose of the study is to quantify the economic impacts and benefits of transportation projects with a specific focus on transit to support the reimagined DART plan. We issued that RFP January 24th. It was posted to the MPO website. We sent it to 25 consulting firms, both locally and nationally. We received one proposal back from Metro Analytics. DART staff and MPO staff met and discussed the proposal and determined that they were a qualified team based on the previous work they'd done out in Utah, which was a project that we were emulating this project on. MPO and DART discussed budgets. We have $150,000 in our budget from this last year. DART said that they were comfortable with up to $100,000. And we also met with Metro Analytics after that fact, knowing that our total project budget, and asked them to bring the scope down and fee to what you see there at $249,993. So that's where we've landed. MPO staff met with Metro Analytics, like I said, to discuss the scope and alignment. We removed some items and added a few items just to make it balance. The Metro Analytics team provided us a draft contract last Friday. That's been reviewed by both MPO staff and our legal counsel. We provided comments back to them and got a revised contract yesterday with all the recommended edits on from legal counsel. So our recommendation would be to authorize the contract with Metro Analytics if that is agreeable.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Altoona, seconded by Moines. But
I have a couple of questions. So there were 25 firms that were, did you have any follow-up discussions with the remaining 24 about why they didn't submit a proposal?
We had several send emails saying that the window of time that we allowed them to submit the proposal was too short based on staffing and ongoing proposal work. That was most of the feedback, was that window was too short for them.
The second question is, I appreciate that. The second question is, did you send that proposal out to another firm to verify price?
We did not. Something we could do, I think.
I'm not trying to create more work. It's just,
Yeah,
somebody who didn't submit, I mean, it's kind of a process they use for federal procurement is you price check or have them verify that. So at least within reason.
Yeah.
I trust you guys. I just corrected the question. I would say that the firm that is the one that bid on it is the one that did the Salt Lake, and they're kind of the one that does this kind of work. I think that's probably the other feedback that we receive is that this just is in normal engineering planning consultants wheelhouse. This is kind of a niche thing. So I don't know who we would go to verify the prices. So pricing this compared to what they did in Salt Lake, very comparable? Yes. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Mike?
I'm
good. Anyone else? All right, then moving second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Up next, we have an optional vote for closed session up. Our next item is the executive director annual review, and we wanted to afford people the opportunity if they wish to speak about the executive director that we would move into a closed session, but it is totally optional. So I don't know if anybody has any comments or would like to make comments or has, but we can move into that. Otherwise, we can just move directly into item 11. So if there was any discussion that needed to be about the executive director, we would move into that closed session. But if there are no comments,
But I can make them public, that's no problem.
anyone want to utilize?
If anyone wants to have a candid conversation without the cameras rolling, just that's fine.
Bring on the camera.
All right, hearing none, we'll skip 10. We'll move into report and vote, the executive director annual review. As you guys are aware, we let time slip and we ran up against the wall for our executive annual review. And so we moved with with you guys' approval. We moved with the executive committee of the MPO to do the review. We met. We utilized the officers. We met. We formed a review. We implemented a new tool in collaboration with Dylan and his executive coach and some input from us. So we've got that up and going. Moving forward, I'm going to ask the personnel committee to meet and lay out a calendar because I would like the review to be done before December. Although it doesn't go into effect till July 1st, the recommendation wouldn't, but we get new members on this committee in January. And I think it's unfair to ask people who may have been here for a month or two to weigh in on that. So I'm going to ask the staff to work with the personnel committee to lay out a calendar so this doesn't sneak up on us again and it affords you all an opportunity for input. We have a tool. We've established the tool. We've set the initial when you see it. And you guys are, I did not have it emailed out in the packet because it is personnel related. It's probably open record. But if you want to review that anytime, you may arrange a time to review that. The committee did meet. We found that Dylan to be performing at a high level. And through the process and discussions, we need to talk about the percent for an increase in his contract and also the contract itself because it's year to year. So I'll start with the contract, which is year to year. I believe that Dylan has done a good job, and all of us know that our executive officers need some security so they don't feel as though they need to always be on guard and keeping one eye on the job market. So I would like us to move into a 3-year contract. And if you want to do 2, that's fine. But just a contract employment with Dylan for a set number of years. So that way, I think the initial year here, he's proven to be of value. We've gone down. There's been no concerns vetted to me or the executive officers, and think it's time to give the executive director a little bit of peace of mind to know that his tenure here is going to be 2 or 3 years, or for that matter, if you guys want to do longer, we can. But we'd be open to discussion on that. Each year we would go through the review process, which would establish his increase. So we wouldn't be locking in on that. Discussion, comments, concerns.
I think it's a great idea. I think just coming 1 year leaves them hanging out there. And I would echo personnel committee.
You look at where we're at right now, we're March 1st, and if there was a concern, contract expires, stop.
Yeah. Gives him some comfort to really do his job and doesn't have to be free to do his job. Thank you. And I gotta say, he's done an incredible job with what he was in and where he's been and how he's guided staff. So I can't say enough good things about him.
Your preference on the length.
Yeah, I guess my preference would be nothing against Dylan. I think you're doing a fantastic job, but I think that this probably makes sense to do a 2-year term and coincide it perhaps in the off year of the elections. I think that with new personnel on councils and representations from cities, there can always be a change in mindset and interpretation on the job that is being done. So I think that would give a little buffer room for the new folks to come in and understand it, but then provide for a regular cadence of review.
Mr. Chair, this is Councilman Gatto. Just first off, I can't believe it's been a year. Dylan, you did a remarkable job. I appreciate everything you've done for the organization and with the staff. I'm fully supportive of 2, or I would go the 3 years. I think you well deserve that. So I would push to do the 3 years for you. If the rest of the room wants to do the 2 years, I guess that's fine. But you did a remarkable job in the year that you've had it, from where we've been a year ago and previous to where we're at now. So good job, and hats off to you and your staff.
Thank you for those comments, Joe. And what I'll do is we'll just defer to whoever makes the motion. We do have more to talk about for Dean before you make a motion. We have more to talk about, but I will allow whoever makes the motion to, we'll just let the vote fall. If you want to do 2 or 3, that's up to whoever makes the motion and the vote, as it should be with the policy board. Up next, the second thing, unless anyone has any more discussion about the term, hearing none. We found the review to be highly favorable, and we felt that we could go higher than what the number I'm going to throw out, but we felt 3% seemed to be about in line with a lot of what other organizations were involved with. The review would support higher than that, but again, we don't really necessarily want to get a target on Dylan's back as far as just what else is going on in the metro and percentage of increases. People, when you make the motion, whoever makes the motion, if you want to. I would caution about going too high. Again, target. We feel that he's done a great job, and 3% seems to be about what CPI is supporting and what other organizations are involved in is going through with labor negotiations and stuff like that. So it would, comments, but it would again defer to whoever makes the motion.
I'll move 3 years, 3%.
I'll second.
This year.
For this year. The 3% would be just to clarify.
The 3% is just for this
year. Moved by Altoona, second by Urbandale. Any discussion, comments?
Is that at least what the staff are getting? We haven't done annual staff reviews. I would assume they would be probably a little higher than that. I'm comfortable. I would think you should get at least with the staff. We would do a CPI adjustment, which, like I said, is about 3% plus a performance, anywhere from 1 to the performance.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Moving on, report and comprehensive safety action plan draft. Marcus.
Thank you. Thank you. As you all know, we've been working on this comprehensive safety action plan. We have a representative from Tool, I think, on the line, but I'm going to go ahead and do the presentation today just to keep things moving. Plan contents have been drafted and reviewed by TTC. We are also working through edits from the technical committee, but the plan outline here basically shows you the chapters of the plan that we have. These align with the specified guidance from FHWA on what should be included in the comprehensive safety action plan pretty directly. So you should be achieving all of those items. And you can see we have a lot of appendices to support all the data that's in the plan. Just to go through some of the highlights, Chapter 3 in Appendix A, that's the crash analysis, where we dig into the crash data, looking at fatal and severe injury crashes. They're more common on larger roads. These are the highlights of the data analysis. Men and young adults are more likely to be fatally or severely injured than women and older adults and children. Fatal and severe injury crashes are more likely to occur in rural areas, which we have another analysis that looks at urban areas using the urbanized area boundary. Motorcyclists, pedestrians, and bicyclists are more vulnerable crashes and motor vehicle occupants. And then speeding and failure to yield are the two biggest causes of fatal and severe injury crashes. That's a good summation of what's going on with our crashes in the region. Chapter 4 looks at all the community engagement efforts that have been ongoing. Here's some of the key findings. As you can see kind of behind us, we're still working on phases of community engagement. The latest phase has to do with the grant piece, like I mentioned, that's upcoming still. But you can see there several of the key findings from community engagement. Chapter 5 and Appendix F gets into what your communities can really use or hopefully use out of this plan. We have our high injury network and the critical projects areas for each of the communities. And then Appendix F goes into more detail, showing you where those projects are, giving you kind of termini for the projects, and then a very high level list of countermeasures that could be implemented to improve safety on those corridors, which when included with an additional appendix, you can dive deeper into which performance or which countermeasures you actually want. Chapter 8 gets into progress and transparency. So this is, ongoing reporting. How are we going to continue to do that? This figure here shows, the fatal crashes and how we're going to get to 2045. And what we would need to do for reductions in terms of the number of crashes that involve fatal injury. So this will end up likely being put on our crash analysis dashboards, and when we track it, report it back to you, we'll highlight how we're trending in line with our goal. So the plan for adoption. The comprehensive safety action plan will be presented to the technical committee and the executive committee in March with kind of a buttoned up final version. MPO staff is working to schedule a meeting with the transportation safety committee to review the plan. Again, the transportation safety committee was the group that was put up together to oversee the development of the plan. So they're going to take one last look at it. And then as you previously voted on having a March meeting, you will in March hopefully approve the plan after you have a chance to review it and after the technical committee has a chance to go through and make sure that all the edits that were recommended were completed. With that, I think if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Otherwise, that's all I have on this update.
Any questions? Thank you. Moving on, reporter of application of Safe Streets for All, Marcus.
Okay, so the big plan is to take that plan and turn it into a grant application so that we can implement some projects. So back in December, we had a discussion about the different approaches. There are 3 real options. Everyone's kind of leaning it. The technical committee is kind of leaning in on option 2, which is for many smaller spot treatments of safety countermeasures spread across the region. And then a few key corridors or intersection reconstruction projects that'll really make a big impact for transportation safety. The assumptions that we're working from for the grant are that we'd have one region-wide application. The maximum for federal funding would be 25 million. When you factor in the match, that's 31.25 million with the matches coming from the communities. Not saying we have to go after the full amount, but that's the total number we're looking at as our upper ceiling. So this map is pretty difficult to see, but essentially what we're trying to show you is some of those smaller spot treatments around the region. They're going to be focused on safe access to schools, which was one of the priorities for Transportation Safety Committee. And these maps, we also have additional maps that show location of schools in relation to these projects. And we'll be taking and having a conversation with your technical committee staff on which projects make sense to advance. Other regional wide projects, retro reflective signal back plates for traffic signals. And we'll be narrowing this down, like I said, through conversations with your technical staff. potential key corridors. So your community member, your staff members, your community had projects. 39 total projects were submitted. The Transportation Technical Committee voted on what projects they had the most support for. Those were 41 in Grimes, Highway 163 in Pleasant Hill, Delaware Avenue, and then several other projects. A few of these already have projects ongoing, like US 69 in Ankeny, so that might not end up making it into the final list because of those projects. But we'll be working to narrow down this list of projects as we move into grants. So next steps. We had our public meeting to solicit feedback from the public on preferred projects. We'll seek more input from communities on that list of projects and the priority projects for the communities. We also have a survey available right now that goes into what countermeasures are supported by the public. And I think we're going to share that with all of your technical staff so that hopefully you can push it out on social media and get more feedback. And then we'll generate a strategy based on the NOFO once it's out. But the goal is to have kind of that list of projects put together in advance. So once we have a NOFO, we can start working on it and be prepped and ready to go to be awarded the funding. And then we'll return to TTC with recommendations as we move forward to grant. Any questions on that? Oh yeah. Again, this is just highlighting that open house and the survey. So we had pretty good turnout. It was a cold day, but as you can see, lots of dots were spread across the board. So we were pretty pleased with how things went at our open house. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah. All right, moving on, report legislative update, DC list. Dylan the Gunner.
I'll pick us off with a few updates at the state level and then chip in. I also want to know that Tony Chavez is here from Congressman Nunn's office. He was here for tech and exec earlier this month as well. So he'll be able to participate in the conversation. There's a lot happening. I know you're all itching to get out of here, but we'll try to balance meeting quickly with covering this material. On the state level, one thing that we've been watching very closely this session is a bill related to Future 435. There was a bill introduced in the House last week. We are anticipating a Senate companion bill at any moment. It does a few things. It provides a federal weight exemption, a guarantee that we will pursue that as a subsequent step of the overall plan. It also would provide for a minimum speed exemption. That's the piece that the state has to do. That's the state law that is identified as a barrier to interstate designation. And also would appropriate for $250,000 toward an alternatives analysis to help seek a different route for the slow moving vehicles on that traffic. I'm giving you a really high level overview. Happy to go into more depth on this if you want to. The important thing to take away from this is when committee meetings start being scheduled, we will be putting out a call, especially to our corridor communities, and please show up, especially as elected officials, to send a message of how important this is.
Do you have a number for that house file? Your number, so we can track it? Or just send it out
I
sometime.
can send it out, yeah. I do have it. Off the top of my head, it's like $394, I think. But and then that's it on that. Something that was flagged at our technical committee meetings, there is a bill about sidewalk liability. This is an issue that you should all sure aware of. At exec, they gave us direction that we should be lobbying in favor of this. So if there's anything that you want particular us, please feel free to call on us to help participate. Lastly, this is news. There's a resolution proposing to amend the Constitution to repeal I will. We take this to your attention because trail funding is one of the purposes of the fund. And so as a transportation funding vehicle, generally we support things that are adding more funding towards transportation. So if you want to bring this to your attention. I'll pause here on the state stuff. Dylan, anything I missed? No, I don't think so. Any other discussion on the state pieces? Okay. So I'll start the federal piece. This is the time of year when we're starting to pull together projects for our DC list. This is the list of priorities that we take to our congressional delegation, usually on the partnerships DC trip. Basically, if you're seeking federal funds, make sure your project's on the list. We put it in front of our congressional delegation and their staff and say these are important. So this has been distributed to tech. Hopefully those are being sent to me. feel free to submit. This is a living document. If things change prior to the trip, we can add to it. Okay. So I'll cover a couple of federal transportation updates. For one, if you weren't aware, Sean Duffy was appointed or confirmed as the DOT Transportation Secretary. Secretary Duffy is a former congressman from Wisconsin and has now taken over the US DOT. One of his first acts was to repeal or start the process to repeal CAFE standards or to reduce CAFE standards, the fuel economy standards, and also just lowering impressive vehicles and eliminating the electric vehicle mandate. So this is in line with what we've seen from the administration so far as well. If you go to the next slide, let me preface this all by saying there's a lot of updates. Everything kind of changes by the day. So we're doing our best to stay on top of this. We might not have full information. I know Tony's here to help provide some guidance on this too, or what he knows on this too, but we'll go through what we know. So about a month ago, the administration released an executive order. The executive order was really targeted towards programs that were in the infrastructure bill, the IIJA, the infrastructure bill, targeted towards things like the Green New Deal, electric vehicles, climate change. But the way it was worded, it looked like it would freeze all funding tied to the bill. There was a clarification made the next day that said, no, it's just these one elements. And then about a week later, they rescinded the memo. But we can see the direction that the administration is moving on some of these things. Want to go to the next one. There's been concern out there among MPOs and others of, does this affect all funding? We have received confirmation from both Federal Highway and the Iowa DOT that our normal funding that's used to fund the organization is safe for now. We'll see. But for right now, they're still processing reimbursements. We're still having funding coming in. That said, if we go to the next page or next slide, a new update today says that anything that a Federal Highway Division office, so in Iowa, we have an Iowa office, anything they would typically have approval authority on has to be sent to the US DOT's Office of General Counsel for review and approval first. So it adds another layer into that process. And initially, it was only said that this was going to affect STIP or TIP amendments. But upon talking to our Federal Highway office, they said, no, it is anything that requires a signature or approval. So we're trying to determine what the universe of that even means. For sure, it's TIP amendments. It would be work program amendments for the organization. We're trying to figure out, does this include funding reimbursements? Anytime we submit a request for funding that has to have federal sign off, is that going to be delayed? I say delayed because the assumption is that it has to go to DCA and gets reviewed by someone else. It's just adding another layer. It's going to cause delays. So for your awareness, if you have TIP amendments for the projects you're working on, please be aware of this, and we will share this with your technical committee folks, because this could make it so you're not hitting letting dates that you've had set in advance if you have to make changes. So again, we're trying to find more information on this, and we'll do the best we can to share that information to make sure everyone knows what we know. If you move on, a few other things. There's a memo released or an order released of ensuring resilience upon sound economic analysis in department decisions and so forth. This really outlines kind of the principles that the US DOT will be working under as they continue to do their work and make decisions. If you go on to that, you can see, I won't read this all word for word, but it's very much looking at cost benefit analysis, economic impact. So the study that we're doing might be very timely to set us ahead on that. If you want to skip to the next page, there's some very interesting stuff here that starts getting to families and looking at how do we provide economic opportunity, especially for families, preference given to communities with marriage and birth rates that are higher than the national average. So again, this is kind of a new door we're walking through, and we're trying to figure out what exactly this means, and is this going to benefit us, is it going to hinder us? Where do we sit here?
The more kids you have, the better you're out.
So as we just discussed with the safety action plan, targeting schools is very intentional on our part because this looks to be where the administration wants to go. So we're trying to set ourselves up as much as we can. I think we mentioned, or maybe it's just in the orientation we mentioned this, but the RAISE grant was changed back to BUILD. So just a little history under the Obama administration, it was the Tiger program. And then under Trump, it was the BUILD. Biden changed it to RAISE, and now it's back to BUILD. It's the same basic program, but there are small or sometimes big, but there are nuanced changes to this. A lot of the, like I said, climate, environmental justice, those sorts of things have been removed. We were aware of this in time as we developed Windsor Heights application for the build grant. So we were able to accommodate that. It probably helped the project, if anything, but just to make people aware of that. We've been trying to understand and do some analysis of how likely are these changes going to affect what we're already doing. For the most part, we're still in alignment with the new administration's priorities. Surface transportation block grants, TAP program, like I said, build, those are still going to remain relatively the same as far as we know. There could be some reimbursement related pauses, but for the most part, the programs won't change. Safe Streets for All, so far they haven't said they're not going to release that note vote. They've had opportunities to pull that down off the sites and make changes, but they haven't yet. So we're still anticipating that's going to happen. The big change is probably going to be with carbon reduction program funding. This is the new funding that was put in place under the previous administration. We received, and this was a formula program, we received 5 years worth of funds. We've awarded those funds. We did award 1 year past what the bill says. So what direction we're getting from the Iowa DOT in particular is it's possible that this administration would come back and say, you can't do any of that. But a lot of those programs are obligated. They're starting to be programmed. So if anything, we just need to be aware that it's unlikely that program would continue in the next authorization bill. And if that is the case, we will have to rescind funds that we've awarded or somehow make those up to the communities that we've awarded those to with SDBG funds or something else. Those are in fiscal year 2028. We do have time to make these adjustments and hopefully learn more of what the new landscape is, but that's what we know right now. I can't remember if there's another slide here, but I do want to pause and give Tony a chance to provide any insight or answer any questions you might have for him.
Yeah. Good to see everybody. I hope you're all having as much fun as I am. Love the new federal government. All right. Thank you guys for having me. I know Polk and Dallas counties make up about 75% of the population of the 3rd district. So your opinions are incredibly important. I want to say thank you to all of you for all the hard work that you put into the district during the first term and assisting us in getting to know all of you better. And we hope we continue this very beneficial relationship. Moving into some housekeeping. For the Great Des Moines Partnership, we are working with the partnership to make sure the congressman has more one-on-one time with all of you during the actual meeting. So we're thinking about moving some logistics around to not do the big group event anymore, but do some more one-on-one. So just in case you're aware of that. On the back end of that, we are having some staff turnover in DC in our operations director and scheduler, our legislative director, and our communications director. Here's the deal. If you need something, you have my cell phone number, call me. I will make sure it gets done. In district scheduling, we'll go through the district office, and anything legislative related, I'll make sure it gets to the right legislative assistant, and we'll partner together until these turnovers happen at the end of February, and we bring in new DC staff at the top of March. So this is very temporary, just patchwork. I'll continue to be a good main point of contact for everyone to make sure you're getting what you need. That's very important to us as we move forward. Does anyone here not have my cell phone number? I've been trying to hand it out as much as I can all the last 2 years, so. Very nice. Okay, moving forward. Grants, I'm still managing a lot of the grant stuff. We are having a blast. Here is what we can do. Part of it is writing letters to specific agencies to provide clarity. I know there's some letters we've already written to the Department of Commerce over the Census Bureau items, as well as to a number of other agencies related to projects that have frozen. Our current understanding is that if you signed on the dotted line, the funding is supposed to still be coming. Otherwise, that's going to start moving into legal issues that we will not be able to help out with as much. However, we are writing letters and sending them to the agencies to help get something from them in writing that can help provide clarity on where we're supposed to go next with all of this. That's a very big thing for us, is getting things from the agency in writing. If you are not getting the responses that you want or in a prompt enough manner from an agency, please let us know. They are starting to staff up on the congressional liaison offices side. So we're starting to get better response times from the new departmental staff. So please let us know. We are still being very aggressive about this in the office. We are also still willing to write letters of support. I know we're doing it for the state right now, as well as a couple other projects. But the biggest thing as well, and I know I've had some city managers call a lot of stress over the language used in the raised kind of grants, the last administration's grants, moving into the new administration. we are willing to write additional letters of support to help clarify some of that language used in those applications and emphasize the importance of these projects to the district. So that's more or less, I'll cut through the crap. We're gonna help make sure it's translated properly to this new, more, whatever this is, we're gonna help you guys with the translation and make sure that the projects are still as good projects and that we keep you guys in the running for planning. The last part is we're still willing to assist with research as well as craft any bills for things that you believe to be persistent problems with programming. Once again, please let us know. The more information you guys can get over to us, the better. I will stay up all night reading it. I love to do it. So please let me work for you guys. Community project funding, we are accepting projects right now. I cannot guarantee when this window is going to open. We have not passed year 25 budget yet, which would supply funding for the last projects. And we believe that shortly after fiscal year 25 passes, the new appropriation share is going to roll right into the next community project funding. If that is still the plan, we want to know what projects you guys are focusing on as soon as possible so we can get as much information as possible. Because just like last year, there could be some last minute changes. I know we worked with a number of city councils on making sure nonprofits would still be able to apply through pass-through funding after they change those rules as well. The sooner you let us know, the better. Let's get your foot in the door. And when they do change something last minute, we can call you and let you know the little details we need you to make up for us and move into the application rather than asking you to submit a whole new one. So communication is key. Communication is key here. We would really appreciate it. Let's see here. Any questions from you guys? Anything that I can address immediately or that we can start looking into on the federal side? Anybody need help with any agencies off the bat? Okay, well, you all have my cell phone number. I'm working right down the street. I want to also say thank you for the number of you who have sent me some other organizations who are looking for assistance with agency. We have received those and we are continuing to communicate with them and the agency. So please, please, please let us know where we can be helpful and what you want us to be focusing on as we move into this new term so that we can continue to be good partners. Thank you.
Up next, we have a report on the fiscal year 2026 Unified Planning Work Program and Budget Development.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, we're working on our Unified Planning Work Program. The conversation we had earlier on the strategic framework will fit into this. You can see the timelines up there. In March, we'll have the Tech and Exec Committee review the draft document. We'll bring it back for this committee back in the final in May, but we'll send the drafts out to you so you can see what's in them. Today, I want to focus more on the budget side of things. So if you flip to the next slide, I apologize, it's a little smaller than I intended. You can see the draft budget as it stands right now, and we did walk through this with the finance subcommittee last week or 2 weeks ago. Things look pretty healthy right now. We see that the revenues are outpacing the costs that we're anticipating to where we have about a $95,000 surplus at the end of the year. I do want to temper that though, if you flip to the next slide, looking at a budget forecast. So you can see that if things continue to go the way they are, with what we're anticipating, and these are assumptions that we have to make on what increases will be to insurance and office space and all the fun things we have to deal with, that our expenditures start to outpace our revenues. And that green area there is our current reserve. It's about 1.5 million right now. We'll have to start eating into that each year to stay healthy there. You can see a faint line towards the bottom. That's our 3-month operating number. That's what we have in place as a policy that we always want to maintain at least 3 months. So if things continue the way we are forecasting over the next 8 years, which a lot can change, obviously, it takes about 8 years before we reach that number. So things are looking good now. But this is something we still want to maintain focus on and just want to put it on your radar now in case we have to start making adjustments, probably not this year, but down the road.
I just want to say thank you for looking ahead and thank you for communicating.
Okay. And if there's anything, I know Glenn, Mayor Bozen on that committee, if there's anything you want to add, please feel free. Don't feel like you have to.
You said it all.
Okay. Next director's report.
All right, I'll keep this pretty quick here. We had an orientation prior to this meeting. So thank you for those who came. I hope you got something out of it. We had a pretty good attendance. It was recorded, so that will be sent out. If you have colleagues that couldn't make it or if you want to view it, please feel free to look at it. We'll also be doing some more one-on-ones and other opportunities if you weren't able to attend. as we talk about the work program, we will have some ad hoc committees available for the board to be on. And real quick on the topic of the board, and I think we had a few people leave here, but we do have some new board members here. So Supervisor Helm, who just walked out, I think, from Dallas County, me from the airport in the back here. So good to see you. I don't want to miss anybody, so by calling everybody out. He's been here before. I know I just feel like I've been here.
It's only been an hour and a half.
We're not at dark. It's only my second.
We're not at dark.
So if you want to go to the next one. For strategic direction, I mentioned the work program. One thing I do want to call out, I've said this before, is we have a certification review with USDOT in early April. Everything going on with what we just talked about with legislation. I have a call with Federal Highway tomorrow to see if plans are still on for that, or if that's something they have to send to DC to get signed that could delay. Our Federal Highway Iowa Division representative took the early out retirement offer, so I don't know who's actually going to do the certification review. But those are things I'll have more answers to. And then I wanted to highlight some upcoming focus areas of projects that we're going to do. So we talked about the economic impact study earlier. We also have plans to do a regional active transportation plan, so bicycle pedestrian type of planning, pavement analysis, and freight plan. So those are things you'll start to see coming from us. Those might be opportunities for committees if those are areas of interest. If you really want to dig into pavement analysis, let us know. We'll put you on that committee. But those are things you can look forward to. Finally, staffing update. I do want to mention that we will have a new planner starting in March. It's a familiar face to some of us, Allison Riley, who previously worked for the MPO and then went to the county. We've stolen her back, sorry. But she'll start here in March. So that will bring us back to full strength for the first time in quite a while. So we're really looking forward to that.
Right, up next, other items of interest. Do we have anything? Or is committee member? All right, moving on. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is April 17th, but no, also I'm sure Tracy will be sending out calendar invite to the Zoom link for our special meeting in March. Nothing else before us. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate your input.